She makes her return at UFC 273, one of the top strawweight fighters in the world. I am always happy to speak to Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie, how are you?
I'm good. I'm excited. I have the fight coming up about 3.5 weeks out. So I'm excited. I'm excited to be in front of a crowd again. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you main evented your last card. Now this one's on a pay-per-view, so you don't have the 5 rounds, but you also don't have to deal with like quite as much media, that kind of stuff. So have you figured out which one you like more? Do you like the main event, or do you kind of like being on a pay-per-view, but not necessarily the main event?
um, I mean, honestly, I've always had like a lot of media going into my fights, so it wasn't that big of a difference from the main event. I mean, our main event was fight nights. I don't know if a main event of a pay-per-view is even more, but no, I definitely think that kind of the public that we were, the people who are watching the main event fight is going to be maybe different than the ones who are going to be, paying for this pay-per-view. And, it's going to be a great card. There's Durinho with Chimev. I don't want to mess up his name. And then the Korean Zombie with Alex and Peter Yan and Aljamain Sterling. So I think this is going to be a huge card. I think it's a good opportunity for me to show kind of that I'm all the mistakes that I corrected from my last fight, and just to show like a better Mackenzie. So I think being on this pay-per-view card is going to be a little more important at this moment in my career right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, as you mentioned, fighting in front of fans again, it feels like forever since we've had that. So I know that's going to be exciting as well, because again, there's a certain energy that you get with the crowd that you just don't get otherwise. I mean, I understand you can hear your coaches better in the Apex, all those kind of things, but come on, we all want the fans to be there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with I had I think maybe 4 or 5 fights in the Apex, and I mean it was good. I had good results and stuff like that. I definitely had to kind of overcome different like mindset stuff. Where you're like, oh shit, you're hearing the other my opponent's coach is talking, and okay, like really learning how to concentrate and kind of be more in the moment. But yeah, when I mean to get the fight that you want, and just sometimes to bring that heart out of you, that man, only the crowd brings that, you know what I mean? With all the cheering, and that only the crowd gives you that adrenaline. And yeah, like that moments when you're not really thinking about strategy, you're just like, okay, let me just get this, let me just get into this, because that's what everyone wants to see. And I want this win, in front of all these people. So it's like, yeah, I'm so excited to be back in front of the crowd, especially Jacksonville, man. Jacksonville's a crazy, crazy crowd. So I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Let me backtrack with you, Mackenzie, to talk about the last fight. Of course, we talked, prior to the fight, 5 round battle. Marina Rodriguez, of course, she's an incredible athlete in her own right. And you got your first fight of the night. You've had several performance of the nights in the UFC. Now, I hear a mixed reaction from fighters when I ask about fight of the night. Some are like, I'm glad to get it. It's a cool bonus. Others are like, well, fight of the night means you kind of got engaged in a bit of a war, so had to take some damage and things like that. So, how do you feel about your first fight of the night bonus?
Yeah, I mean, I think not necessarily about like getting, you had to get damage and stuff like that. I mean, for sure, that fight was definitely kind of, I think it was back and forth in like, okay, when we were on the ground, a lot of stuff happened on the ground. As in like, I was just kind of working a lot. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the submission before we had to stand back up again to the next rounds, but I feel like my moments on the ground, a lot of stuff was happening. It was kind of like omoplata is going to her back, kind of mount and all these things. And then stand up was a lot of, just like me trying to catch her, and her just kind of pointing and being able to touch me and showing her footwork, So I feel like she kind of really showed her style standing up, and me, my style on the ground. And I mean, she wasn't able to knock me out on the stand up, and I wasn't able to submit her on the ground. So, I mean, of course, I wish fight of the night I had it I was on the winning side of it, but I'm happy we were able to show. I mean, she's, like you said, she's such an experienced fighter. She's a great striker, so I was happy I was able to stay in there with her with 5 rounds. She's definitely, I could see her working strategically, like, thinking about, okay, let's go the 5 rounds. I can win. I can lose the first one. I can maybe lose the second, okay. And let me bring it up on the third, and I'm just thinking like still working on my emotion, just like wanting to hold. I'm trying to work on being patient and not being such an emotional fighter, But when I fought Verna Jandiroba, where I broke my nose, I forgot who. I think it was Daiko and Brendan Moreno. They they ended up getting the fight of the night. But I remember, Dana, he said, man, the guy stole it from me and Marina on the last fight of the, they were the main event, but almost we got fight of the night on that one. And that was a little bit similar, like what you said, like my nose broken and just like a straight out brawl and stuff like that, So if I can get from, okay, we did good as in striking and grappling, I definitely prefer that than like leaving with a broken nose and all that stuff. But
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me ask, I know it's so cliche, Mackenzie, to say this, fighters say it, but there is some truth to it when they say you learn more from a loss than you do from a win, because, you go back and I imagine you probably kind of assess things and analyze things a little bit more because you want to figure out what went wrong, what you did right, but also what went wrong. So what do you take away from that fight? I mean, it was the first UFC main event, and you had a great performance, honestly. Like, it wasn't a bad performance by any stretch of the imagination. And we know now, Marina is probably going to be getting the next title shot. At least it looks like that on paper. So again, no shame in losing to her. But what do you take away from that performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think thankfully, this loss, it was 5 rounds, so I have a lot of footage that I was able to just go back and look and study. It wasn't, and like kind of sometimes, like you said, with the wins, you still go back and you watch and, you see things, but maybe sometimes the wins, it's a fast win or like you don't get that much, footage to look at. So I had 25 minutes, to study and everything. But I think really the biggest thing was just kind of my emotion compared to her, her experience inside, striking and just like her footwork and being able to kind of stay calm, and me, I was kind of just getting frustrated. I was frustrated. I wasn't really feeling how I wanted to feel. I worked really hard for the fight. I trained the whole fight kind of for her, just like, okay, getting her to the ground. And I feel like her reach and stuff was just kind of bothering me. I wasn't able to get in. So I'm kind of excited to fight Tecia now. That's a little bit similar in style, as in like she gets a lot of decisions. She has good cardio. She goes most of the rounds. She kind of gets in, makes her points, and then moves and gets in, makes her points, and moves. So a lot of footwork. But I'll have the reach in this fight. So I'm excited to really work on getting my footwork. And also too, just kind of trying to bring her in and getting her close to me for her to make her points. But that's kind of my moment that I can take to the ground, So I feel Tecia's like a good fight for me to recover the mistakes I made against Marina, instead of, I don't know if I was to fight like a wrestler or something like that, So I'm excited to kind of have a little bit, fight a striker again. But yeah, I think just her experience, she's had, I think, a couple five rounds, like main events and stuff like that, So it definitely showed in the fight. And yeah, I think I'm getting that experience, I think that was my first one. If I get a good showing in this next fight, maybe I can get another main event. So hopefully we can get back. But honestly, I don't want to stay 5 rounds all the time. If I get the 5 rounds, I want to finish like in the first round. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Now, Mackenzie, I know, and listen, I know you're never one, we've talked after wins and losses. You've never been a person to make any kind of excuses, but I know you did have knee surgery after the Marina fight. And I know you mentioned in another interview, it was kind of, it was your last sparring session. You actually had a knee injury, but you also said, you didn't really feel it in the fight, but you are a grappler. You're an incredible grappler. You're a wrestler, but you did have, of course, some great grappling moments in that fight. Did the knee injury, did it, at all during the fight, did it affect your ability to go for the takedowns, to get for the grappling? Because again, knee injuries, I think that kind of gets lost when you're a wrestler or a grappler. A knee injury is pretty much the worst thing you can have.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even after my surgery, like my jiu-jitsu was the last thing that I was able to get cleared to coming back doing, So, of course I got back to the striking first. Then I was able to put in takedowns, and then I finally was able to get the grappling back to like being cleared to train the grappling part. Because of the knee, it's just so many weird angles and pressures and stuff like that. I mean, I think it was mostly like just the mental part of it. No, I think there's too much adrenaline and stuff to actually feel any pain or stuff like that. But I mean, the mental part of like, okay, a week before the fight, you're thinking like, okay, should I pull out? Should I not pull out? This is a big opportunity, And then I remember thinking like, man, okay, this is my first main event. I don't want to pull out Now maybe they'll just reschedule it, you know, or maybe not. Maybe they'll give Marina a different person, and then I'll kind of lose the opportunity. I could win, you know. I still felt like I could win no matter what. So I mean, it was just, and then I saw that like Holly Holm had pulled out of her fight with Norma the week after me, you know. So it was just kind of like my first time being in that situation where, you know, actually thinking about pulling out of a fight, and it was a really important, you know, time for me of my first main event. But I mean, I think just the week of the fight, I wasn't really able to move. I wasn't able to train. I was just kind of trying to recover and not show anything. Trying to see if my knee would, you know, not be swollen, you know, and just kind of calm down and see if I can get back to regular like movement. And then I come out, and I think like, not I think, but like the first couple moves she does, it's like, you know, that she kind of does a lot of like that kick where she like steps on your knee a little bit, not too much like to hurt it, but more like to keep distance and stuff like that. But all of a sudden your mind is just kind of, you're thinking, you know, and in the fight, when you're thinking, you're late. You're already like one second late, you know, and you need to be ahead. You just always need to be ahead. So I think unconsciously it affected me a little bit, but not as in too much movement or pain or anything like that. Just more I'm thinking about my knee, thinking about my move, like thinking I have to explode and get to her, but not being confident I'm putting weight on my knee and doing stuff like that. You know, I think definitely my mindset is what caught to me. And I feel like if I would have just stayed concentrated and thought about beating her instead of thinking about me, I would have been able to brought more to the fight, you know. So, but that's experience, you know.
Yeah, I know it's a what if, and I hate asking a what if, but I am curious. Like, if it wasn't a main event, if it was just a 3-round fight and it was just whatever, do you think you would have contemplated pulling out though? Because again, that's right before the fight. It's an unfortunate timing. I mean, that's really what it is. It's just bad timing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like we travel Tuesday, so it's Friday, my last sparring before, and yeah, no, for sure. If it was just like a you know, three round fight, you know, I don't know, like on prelims or something like that, even if it was on the main card, but you know, not like a potential tighter contender fight, you know, for sure I would have like asked to be pulled out or see if they would reschedule it or something like that, you know. But and who knows, even maybe even the next one now, like I saw Carla, I know she got cut on her eye when on like a jiu-jitsu kind of grappling match she did. And so it's just kind of like, it's never in me to pull out, you know, but more I'm seeing like, okay, that's okay to do that. You know, you need to think about yourself too, you know, not about always putting on a show and, oh, you don't want to like, you know, I'm asking for a fight. Finally, the UFC gives me a fight and then feel like pressure that, oh, I need to follow through with the fight, you know, and if injuries, that's part of the game, you know, it's part of training, you know, and things like that. So, I mean, even now if it happens now, I don't think I would feel, you know, too bad about saying like, hey, no, I got injured, you know, especially seeing like Holly Holm and, you know, high level athletes and champions do that too all the time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate because again, you get a great opportunity like that. And I totally understand the instinct. You don't want to pull out. You don't want to, you know, you leave the UFC kind of high and dry without a main event, all those kind of things. But, you know, you're also going into a fight a little bit compromised. Now, coming out of that, you had the surgery. Can I ask what the surgery was? Like, it seems like you bounced back fairly quickly. What was the surgery?
Yeah, it was a meniscus and they removed some loose bodies too that was in my knee. So it had just, I tore my meniscus. And then I tried to see, after the fight, I did like maybe 4 different MRIs and all 4 of them did like different tears, you know? So all 4 of them had like, okay, I have 2 tears. Oh no, I have 1 tear. I have like 2 tears and, you know, a different something else. And so I tried to do like a physical therapy because one of the doctors I did, they said they wanted to repair it with stitches, but I don't want to repair it. You know, they say that's like 3 months without weight, with no weight bearing or nothing like that. So I was like, no, I'm going to just try to do physical therapy. See what happens. So after my fight, I stayed like 2 weeks without training. I had gone to, you know, Madison Square Garden. I watched Carla or Zhang Wei Li and Rose, you know, live and stuff like that. And so I was kind of like getting pumped. I'm like, okay, I think I'm like I'm good to come back training. My first training back, it completely tore like not completely tore, but it flipped over the flap of the meniscus. So my knee locked and I couldn't unlock it. Like I tried everything I could, but I couldn't unlock it. But I couldn't. This was probably the first surgery that I was actually happy to do, because then I could actually walk again. I wasn't able to walk. I wasn't able to do anything. So I wish I would have done the surgery just right after my fight instead of waiting the 2 weeks and seeing if it would get better. And that way, maybe I could have come back faster. But yeah, I mean, I still feel like I asked him to just cut out the tear, not repaired with stitches inside. So he took about like 20% of my meniscus, but it's good. I've had ACL surgery. I've had, ligament surgery, medial ligament, my MCL. I've had 4 surgeries on my knees. So the meniscus isn't the worst. It's definitely not a career break or anything like that. I'm actually better now than I was before. So I'm really, really happy about that.
Yeah, it's so weird. Medical science has come so far. I remember years ago, if you had a torn ACL or something like that, people used to think that was a career ender. Now, I remember talking to Joseph Benavidez after he had his ACL surgery, and I was asking him, like, how is it coming back? And he's like, I feel like my leg's stronger. Like, it's weird. He's like, I think I actually come back stronger. My knee feels better than it did even before I had an injury. So I'm sure you're probably feeling the same way. Like, now that you've had the surgery, do you just feel like a lot better?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it was actually the same knee that I had my ACL surgery. So I had my ACL surgery in 2012. So I mean, okay, 10 years later, it's just so much wear and tear inside of there, So it's like, okay, they went in, they took care of my meniscus, and then they kind of cleaned up all the loose, loose fragments and stuff that was in there just from all these years, like of training, grappling, getting kicked, kicking, lifting weights. It's like, man, we got to kind of take care of our knees too, So eventually something was going to happen with them, but I'm glad I was able to clean it up, and now it's like way smoother. I can bend my knee, I can do things, and my pregnancy, I've been working so much since my pregnancy to kind of gain muscle and kind of build back on my body. So I have a lot of muscle in my legs. Thankfully, I didn't lose too much from the surgery. I lost a lot from the pregnancy. So coming back from the surgery, I have a lot more to work with, and I feel like I'm just building on top of that.
Yeah. Now you mentioned this matchup with Tecia, kind of a similar stylistic matchup to Marina, and I agree. Of course, Tecia is a smaller fighter, but I was doing a little bit of research before we chatted today because I don't want to pigeonhole you and say you're only a grappler. We know, we've seen the work you've done with Jason Perillo and the improvements in your striking, but I was kind of curious looking at Ticia's record. Like, I couldn't really remember how much she's ever spent time on the ground. And I was doing research on her takedown defense, things like that. And I noticed, and I kind of forgot the fight with Jessica Andrade. She got taken down 10 times in that fight. I didn't remember it being 10 times, but she got taken down 10 times in that fight. Now, Jessica, of course, is an animal. She's a beast in her own right. But again, I don't want to just say like you're going to go in and just try to take Tecia down. But when you look at Tecia, without giving away any secrets, like, do you look at Tecia and say, this is a fight where you can win multiple ways? Like, you don't have to take her down, but it does seem like that's an area where maybe she has struggled a little bit at times.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely my plan for this fight is to go to the ground, even just like striking wise, I think she's fast. I think she has good movement. So, I don't know how easy it is for me to hit her, and I don't think she's an easy. I think she can take punches too, you know what I mean? So at least a lot of her fights that I see, they go striking all the rounds, So I definitely see the easier way to win this fight is by going to the ground and submitting her. I don't know if she's ever been finished. I don't think so, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think, especially like, I don't want to lose positions like I did in my last fight, So take her to the ground and not let the round finish, not let her stand back up, get the fight over with.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you say that because I talk to a lot of, great wrestlers, great grapplers. And, again, when you go in and your opponent has such an incredible weapon in one area of the game, you have to be wary of that. We've seen it a million times when a great striker faces a great wrestler, suddenly they're not throwing kicks and they're not doing their normal striking because they're worried about the takedown. I love that attitude. You're not afraid to say, I'm going to go in, I'm going to take her down, I'm going to submit her because she's got to stop you. And I like that attitude because sometimes you might play coy and, I'm not going to grapple with her. You're an incredible grappler. That is probably the biggest mismatch in the fight. So it's her job to stop you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's definitely harder, I mean, not that it's impossible, but it's definitely harder. Like if you have someone like walking on a thin line, on a cord, and people are trying to bring you down and you're trying to stay standing up, then, someone trying to stay standing up and not letting the person try to catch them. You know what I mean? You're trying to walk and not, you know what I mean? I think the chances of me taking her down are going to be higher than me not being able to take her down, because I mean, I like to strike too, I think I actually saw my own statistics. Like I have way more, like significant strikes absorbed than I do landed, So, I mean, of course I want to change that, but, me getting the takedowns, I'm getting hit, I'm getting hit, but you keep going forward. And that sucks when you're finding someone who just keeps going forward, even though you're hitting them. You know what I mean? It's like, man, this person just doesn't stop, they can just keep taking hits, So, I mean, I guess having a good chin is a good thing. But Pearl is helping me being able to hit more on my takedowns instead of getting hit while I'm getting the takedown, So, yeah, I think we're both dangerous fighters. I think she's coming off a good run. So I think it'll be a good fight, but yeah, there's no secret, just trying to take it to the ground. I think she's going to have to run a lot, but she's good. She has good movement of that, like good footwork, quick. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how the fight goes.
Yeah, but this is also a great fight because it kind of gets you right back to where you want to be. I mean, Tecia's on a 3-fight win streak. Of course, she's a highly ranked fighter, and as are you. But when you look at the lay of the land at strawweight, I mean, again, I said, Marina is probably next. She had the win over Yan Zhao Nan, obviously just recently, so she's there. We know Carla's going to fight Rose, and then I know Joanna and Jacek's coming back. They're talking about matching her up with Zhang Wei Li, but again, a win over Tecia kind of puts you back to where you want to be, right? Like where you're back to being like one fight away from a title shot.
Yeah, I think so. I think everything depends on how big of a statement I can make, but yeah, I think so. I'm not in a rush, I'm trying to be patient, but we'll see. I mean, the division's a little bit on hold still, I thought it was kind of like there were some pieces moving, but who knows, like with Joanna and Zhang Wei Li, if they'll fight, hopefully they do fight. I think everyone wants to see that. I think Joanna, what she's doing, like just trying to get the pay higher, for her, but for all of us fighters, you know what I mean? So kind of what she's doing is going to help us in the future. I think, so, I mean, no pressure there, but I mean, if I get this win, I wonder who will be open, what will be the next fight, who they'll offer after this, But yeah, I think it will definitely keep me in a good position. I didn't want to fight someone too far back, So I think number 6 is Nina. And then, yeah, she's number 7. So I'm glad to be fighting like 5, number 7. We're pretty close in the ranking, and just kind of what she's coming off, a couple wins, a win streak. And she's looking good too. So I think if I can get a good statement, like finish her, if she's never been finished, I think that will be, and she's only lost to like champs, like ex-champs, like Jessica, Andrade, Rose, Joanna, all these tough girls. So I think we'll really show like, okay, I beat her. Let me get one of those,
Yeah, absolutely. Can I ask your opinion on the title fight between Carla and Rose? Of course, this is a rematch several years in the making. Rose has looked incredible over the last couple of years, getting a lot of big wins, and she's an incredible champion. Carla, of course, we all know comes from a great wrestling background. She's a grappler. And of course, she has a win over Rose from several years ago. But I'm kind of curious your opinion on that fight, because everyone I've spoken to, I'm not going to lie to you, Mackenzie, everyone I've spoken to, I look forward to the fight. Should be fun, but Rose is going to win. There's not been a whole lot of faith in Carla to win this fight. So I'm curious your opinion. How do you see that one playing out? Because I feel like we're going to see it, relatively soon.
Yeah, I think the same. I think Rose, I mean, Carla's been looking good. She's been looking like she's gotten stronger. She's, not losing positions. She's like really been able to just put her game plan, like put her strategy in and take down and do what she's good at. Like, she's not emotional. She's not, I say that because of my own experience, it's like, people are like, man, just take to the ground, but you get punched or you're trying to punch and you kind of get caught in the emotions and stuff like that. And I see someone experience like Carla, like, man, she knows what she's good at. She goes and does it and that's it, and, but yeah, I don't think Rose is going to I think Rose is just completely way more advanced fighter than she was back then. She's totally changed, as in gotten like better, striking, her ground game. Her Wei Zhang Wei Li, they're like rolling on the ground, back, working on the back, getting the back and different stuff. So I don't think Rose will kind of give that opportunity of like Carla to get her neck again or something like that. So even though I see Carla getting, just a mature fighter and really putting her shot, I don't see her changing so much of her style of how she was back then. I still feel like she's very similar. Her striking seems really similar to back then. So I think just the difference between how much Rose has gotten better is gonna win her the fight.
Yeah, I would actually really like, I think one day I would really like to see a fight both of them because, of course, Carla with the wrestling background, I'd be fascinated to see, the jiu-jitsu versus wrestling argument. And then Rose, she's such an incredible, well-rounded fighter. I think that would be a really fun one down the road too. I'm not saying it's going to be next, but I think both of those would be fun fights for you down the road. Yeah,
for sure. I agree with you. That would definitely be a fun opportunity to fight both of those girls, So hopefully one day we can make it happen. I would like to see too how I would do with a wrestler. I've never fought like a wrestler. I fought like a jiu-jitsu girl too, but actual wrestler, I've never fought one. So it would be fun to see just kind of what she would do and how I would react to it, But and Rose, yeah, I mean, man, it would be such an honor to fight Rose and put on a show for everybody.
Yeah. Real quick before I let you go, Mackenzie, one thing I've been talking to a lot of people about recently, and you, for the most part, I'm trying to remember, but for the most part, you've avoided getting into like any kind of wild trash talking exchanges with your opponents. They may take a dig at you here or there, but you've never been that way. And you've definitely never sat there and tried to talk trash about anybody. I can't remember you really saying a truly bad word about anybody, but we're kind of in this age now where talking kind of gets you attention, gets you fights. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I'm sure you saw a couple weekends ago when Colby Covington fought Jorge Masvidal, and afterwards, he's taking shots at Dustin Poirier through his family, saying things about his wife and kids. And you are a mother. And you understand this. And, I've said to a lot of people, I think that's where you cross the line. I'm not saying some of the other things that Colby has said hasn't crossed the line. I'm just saying like, that's where you really cross the line. Now you've been lucky and had fairly respectful opponents. And I hope that continues, but we are in kind of a day and age where everyone wants to say something crazy to get attention. And I'm not asking specifically about Colby, but I'm asking you as a mother, like, do you feel like there is a time when the talk stuff goes over the line where we should kind of draw a line in terms of like, let's just not bring that up? Because I know you as a mom, like you would never, ever, ever in a million years want anyone to say anything about your family. It just feels like that's always crossing a line.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely. It's not me to judge anybody, you know what I mean? But definitely, I think like, no, it's because no one's seen me really get, to that level, you know what I mean? So I've never, like you said, I've never been pushed to be like mentally strong in that way, like to hear someone talk about my family, my daughter or something like that, but definitely that would be a big battle for me, if someone was to cross that line. And then I have to like kind of separate like, okay, my work. And then me and this person is really like trying to get to me that way. You know what I mean? So like the fact, and the person isn't like that, like, or maybe they are like that, but they're doing it for money or to promote and stuff. You're like, man, I can't believe they're really going, that low. I guess I would say, because for me, that's low, to talk about, family or something like that, So definitely if someone was to do that to me, it would definitely push me like to my limits, I definitely wouldn't like, back down. But it's just that's what they want, right? They want to take you out of your mind. They want to get you to like think about that, So hopefully that never happens. But yeah, I definitely think it's crossing the line. I think money. There's some things that money isn't worth it, So yeah, that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, I'm always curious because I don't have kids, but I think it's over the line. Like, I'm just like, come on. Like, there's a million other things you can talk about. We can trash talk and there's, fun things, funny things, whatever. But that to me is like, that's just a line because Connor's done it as well. And I think Connor has done an incredible job his entire career of being like a really funny, trash talker. But then, he did the same thing going after Dustin. I'm just like, it's not funny. It's not interesting. It's just low. As you said, it's just low. I just don't like hearing it. But I'm curious. I've been talking to a lot of the, parents, fighters who are parents, because you know how precious your family is to you. And I'm like, that to me is just a line you shouldn't cross. And I'm asking everybody because, again, I'm not in your situation. I can't say how I would truly feel, but I imagine everyone would be, pretty upset.
Yeah, because I mean, like in the end of the day, they didn't choose that. They, like, my husband didn't choose, to be a fighter. My daughter didn't choose to be a fighter. So they have nothing. They have nothing to do with it. Who chose it was is us. The fighters. So I mean, hey, if they want to talk about whatever, want to talk about my accent, how I look, how I fight, how whatever, you know what I mean? They can talk about whatever, but the moment you go they have nothing to do with they have nothing to do with the fight, they have nothing to do with my opponent, they have nothing to do with anything like that. It's like, man, it's like, people who pick on, little kids or, elderlies or, like wars and stuff that they go and attack innocent people. It's like, what the heck, nothing,
Yeah.
It's just out of business, it's not really the business part of it anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, you mentioned your husband. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, your husband is a pro surfer, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so now here's you're both athletes, right? And I know your husband is your biggest fan, and I'm quite sure you are your husband's biggest fan. But I'm curious because I always see on Instagram your husband's always there with you, supporting you. So he's a pro surfer, you're a pro fighter. Who has learned more? Who is better at the other one's game? Are you a better surfer than he is at jiu-jitsu, or is he better at jiu-jitsu than you are at surfing? Which one? Because I'm sure you've taught each other a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think consistency-wise, I'm a better surfer. I've competed in surfing and I've done surf competitions. So consistency-wise, we surf even just like, on a free day, let's go surf together. But I mean, he got in a fight with my ex-coach, my ex-trainer. So it's like, he's been in a real like fist fight and stuff for me, you know what I mean? And he doesn't even train that much. So, I mean, it depends. He's like gone and fought in like a supposedly like professional coach and fighter and stuff like that. But I surf more on a consistent day. So, I mean, I guess I leave it like to you or to everyone else who they think is the better, you know what I mean? But one definitely went like, it's like as if you go and surf some huge waves, or something like that, like Jaws or Mavericks or something like that. He goes and fights like a coach, you know what I mean? I'm like, what the heck? And he's like vibes and everything that's totally like outside of his personality, So he definitely, I'm a competitor no matter what. So me going into surf competition stuff, I don't think it's that big of a deal. So I definitely think he kind of like showed a lot of heart and just like, man, okay, he learned a lot just from watching me fight. He hasn't done like classes, hasn't, done stuff like that. He just went and did like a street fight just from fainting and doing all these things just from watching my trainings, so he really absorbed a lot. I was like, oh shoot,
he had some skills you didn't even know about.
Exactly, he's fainting, he has like his little rhythm. I'm like, oh my gosh, he took down, I was like, okay, so he's like MMA. It's not even just like striking, I was like, okay.
Yeah. Well, I know you're also a beach person though. So I imagine you probably, like I said, I'm sure you know you're surfing, you know your way around a surfboard.
Yeah, for sure. No, like I've gone like I said, like competitions. I've gone some big waves too. We went down to Peru. We've done like surf trips, so I'm getting into like the surf vibes. And I mean, I'm around his competitions all the time. Even when we go on surf trips, I film him all the time. So I'm like getting my tan on, and I'm just filming him. But the more you watch, I see like the waves, I see him compared to other surfers and stuff like that. So you learn a lot, it's the same with our daughter, it's like, you think she's just playing in the corner of the academy, the training, she doesn't look like she's paying attention, but like in a year from now, she's going to be doing like arm bars and stuff. And you're like, where did you learn that? I never sat down and taught you, but they pay attention, so it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mackenzie, thank you as always for the time. I really do appreciate it. Have a great rest of your training camp. Of course, safe travels out to Jacksonville, and cannot wait to see you back in action in just a couple weeks.
Thanks so much. Thank you for the time.
Talk to you soon, okay?
Yeah, talk to you soon.